Hey everyone, hope you're having a great day. Today, we're diving into a story where quiet traditions begin to reveal something unexpected. If she remembers every detail, every skill, every habit, then why doesn't she remember herself? If you enjoy this kind of story, don't forget to hit subscribe so you won't miss the next videos. After a long day at the market, Zhixiao notices a quiet corner where rice paper is carefully made, each movement precise and almost instinctive. Drawn by curiosity, Zhixiao observes the process, realizing it's more than just a craft. It's a form of memory preserved through repetition and experience. Returning home, the atmosphere shifts as everyone begins preparing grilled rice paper together. The mood becomes warm and intimate, filled with familiar routines. Yuri's mother joins naturally, handling each step with confidence and accuracy, as if she has done it countless times before. Uri quietly watches, noticing how flawless and effortless her actions are. Something feels off. The more Yuri observes, the clearer it becomes. These are not newly learned skills, but remembered ones. And that realization leads to a troubling question. If she remembers all of this, why can't she remember herself? It sat there quietly, almost disappearing into the background, surrounded by countless other bundles that looked exactly the same. In a place where everything blended together, it was easy for something to lose its identity, to become just another option in an endless sea of choices. Time seemed to stretch in a strange way, not peaceful like before, but heavier, slower, like it was asking for patience rather than offering comfort. The sunlight shifted gradually overhead, casting longer shadows across the ground, marking the passing hours without saying a word. And through all of it, Zhixiao didn't move. There was no effort to call attention, no raised voice trying to stand out, no attempt to compete with the surrounding noise. Just quiet waiting. Because sometimes, no matter how much effort you've put in, the only thing left to do is stay still and let time decide. Eventually, as the market began to thin out and the earlier rush softened into something more scattered, someone finally stopped. There was no hesitation, no long inspection, just a simple decision. The last bundle of water spinach was picked up and gone in an instant. It was such a small moment, easy to miss if you weren't paying attention, but it carried a quiet sense of release, the kind that doesn't need to be celebrated because you can feel it settle naturally inside you. The stall was empty now, not empty in a disappointing way, but complete. Zhixiao stood up slowly, gathering what little remained, movements calm and steady. There was no dramatic ending to the effort, no visible excitement, just a quiet understanding that the task had been finished. And yet, even as everything was packed away, something else began to draw attention. Not something loud or obvious, but something subtle, almost hidden in a quieter corner of the market. While the rest of the space was still filled with overlapping voices and constant movement, this area felt different, slower, more deliberate. Thin sheets of rice paper were laid out under the sunlight, each one nearly identical, each one fragile in a way that demanded care. There was no rush here, no urgency driving the process forward, only steady hands moving with purpose, as if every motion had been practiced so many times it no longer required thought. Zixiao paused, watching from a short distance before stepping closer. The details became clearer. The batter was spread thinly across a steaming surface, almost transparent, so precise it felt like a craft rather than a task. Gentle heat rose into the air, creating a soft haze as each sheet formed, then was lifted carefully and placed onto bamboo racks to dry. Nothing was wasted, nothing was rushed. Every movement had intention, shaped by repetition and experience. A nearby maker spoke in a calm, steady voice, explaining the process in simple terms. Rice flour alone wasn't enough, they said. Tapioca starch had to be added to create the right texture. Without it, the rice paper wouldn't have the flexibility it needed. The explanation sounded straightforward, almost basic, but the more Zixiao listened, the more it became clear that this wasn't just about ingredients. It was about balance, about knowing exactly how much to add, exactly how to adjust, exactly when something felt right. It was knowledge built over time, not something you could fully understand just by hearing it once. Zixiao didn't interrupt, didn't ask many questions, just watched and listened. And in that moment, something shifted. The role changed from someone who had just finished selling at the market to someone quietly absorbing something deeper. Because this wasn't just about making rice paper, it was about the patience behind it, the care in each step, the way tradition could live on through repeated actions. The thin sheets rested under the sunlight, fragile but resilient, holding their shape despite how delicate they looked. And somehow, in that stillness, there was a connection forming, something that tied the present moment to something older, something that couldn't be fully explained but could definitely be felt. By the time Zixiao returned home, the atmosphere had already begun to change. The light of the day softened into evening, and with it came a shift in energy. The earlier quiet of the farm was no longer empty. It was filled with preparation. Ingredients were laid out neatly, each one ready to be used. Eggs, spices, scallions, sesame seeds. Everything was simple, familiar, yet it carried a sense of anticipation. This wasn't just about cooking, it was about coming together. Aunt Ngia stood nearby, carefully sprinkling sesame seeds onto each sheet of rice paper. The movement was slow, controlled, almost precise in a way that suggested experience. Zixiao followed, spreading the mixture of egg and seasoning evenly across the surface, making sure nothing was missed. There was very little conversation, but none was needed. Their movements aligned naturally, each person knowing exactly what to do without being told. It felt practiced, but not in a rigid way, in a way that came from doing something together over time. The rice paper was placed over glowing charcoal, and almost immediately a soft, crackling sound filled the air. Heat met surface, and the transformation began. The smell followed soon after, rich, warm, inviting. It spread through the space quickly, settling into every corner, carrying with it a sense of comfort that went beyond just food. It felt familiar, like something tied to memory. And that's when Yuri's mother stepped in. Her presence wasn't dramatic, wasn't announced. It was natural, almost effortless. She moved into the process, as if she had always been part of it, guiding, adjusting, continuing without hesitation. Her hands were steady, her actions precise. There was no pause to think, no need for instruction. Every step flowed into the next with quiet confidence. And that's when something subtle began to shift. Because it wasn't just that she was helping, it was how she was doing it, the way she handled the ingredients, the way she understood the process without needing to be told. It didn't feel like something newly learned. It felt remembered. And that was the moment when everything started to feel just a little different. Not in a way that anyone openly acknowledged, but in a way that quietly settled into the atmosphere. Uri had been there the whole time, not saying much, not interrupting the flow, but watching, really watching. At first, it was just observation, the kind that doesn't carry meaning yet. But the longer it continued, the harder it became to ignore the details. It wasn't just that Yuri's mother was helping, it was the precision behind every movement, the way she reached for ingredients without hesitation, the way she adjusted the heat instinctively, the way she spread the mixture evenly without needing to check or correct herself. These weren't random actions, they were practiced, refined, familiar. And that familiarity didn't match what Yuri thought they knew. The scene itself remained warm, even comforting on the surface. The soft crackling of the rice paper over charcoal, the quiet coordination between Zixiao and Aunt Ngia, the steady rhythm of preparation. It all created a sense of togetherness that felt natural, almost effortless. But beneath that, something else was building, something subtle but undeniable. Uri's gaze lingered longer now, shifting from the food to the hands preparing it, from the process to the person behind it. There was no confrontation, no immediate reaction, just a growing awareness. The kind that starts small but refuses to fade. The camera could almost feel it too, slowly tightening its focus, moving closer, capturing the details that might have gone unnoticed before. The way her fingers moved with confidence, never second-guessing. The way she handled the rice paper as if she had done it countless times before. The way everything came together without a single mistake. It wasn't just skill, it was memory. And that realization didn't arrive all at once. It crept in, piece by piece, until it became impossible to ignore. Yuri didn't say anything. Not yet. Because sometimes the truth isn't something you confront immediately. Sometimes you need to sit with it. Let it settle. Let it reveal itself fully before you decide what it means. The rest of the room carried on as if nothing had changed. The aroma grew richer, filling the space with warmth. The rice paper crisped perfectly, each layer transforming under the heat into something both simple and deeply satisfying. Aunt Ngia continued her work with the same calm precision, and Zixiao followed along, focused, steady, unaware of the shift happening just a few steps away. Everything looked normal, everything felt right, and that's what made it so unsettling. Because when something doesn't match what you believe to be true, even the most ordinary moment can start to feel unfamiliar. Yuri's expression didn't change much, but there was something new in the eyes. A sharper focus, a quiet tension. Not fear, Not confusion exactly, but something in between. A question forming, even if it hadn't been asked yet. The kind of question that doesn't come from doubt alone, but from recognition. Because deep down, something already knew the answer. The process continued, uninterrupted. Another sheet of rice paper placed over the heat. Another layer of ingredients added with perfect balance. Another finished piece lifted away at just the right moment. No hesitation, no correction, no mistakes. And with each repeated action, the pattern became clearer. This wasn't coincidence. This wasn't guesswork. This was knowledge. The kind that doesn't disappear easily. The kind that stays, even when everything else seems to fade. Uri's gaze stayed fixed. Not intrusive, not obvious, but present. Watching. Waiting. Connecting the pieces without forcing them. Because sometimes the truth doesn't need to be chased. It reveals itself when everything else slows down enough for you to see it. The room felt warmer now, not just from the fire, but from the presence of everyone gathered there. And yet within that warmth, there was a quiet contrast, growing stronger with every passing second. A gap between what was believed and what was being shown. And right at the center of that gap stood Uri, holding both at once, trying to understand how they could exist together. The sounds softened, the movement slowed just slightly, as if the moment itself was stretching, allowing everything to settle into place. And then, almost without realizing it, Uri looked directly at their mother, not just casually, not just in passing, but intentionally, really seeing her, the confidence in her posture, the certainty in her hands, the calmness in her expression. There was no confusion there, no hesitation, no sign of uncertainty. And that's when it landed. Not loudly, not dramatically, but clearly. If she could do all of this, if she could remember every step, every detail, every instinct that came with it, then how could she not remember anything else? The thought didn't need to be spoken out loud. It was already there, fully formed. And for the first time, Yuri's expression shifted, not into shock, not into panic, but into something quieter, something deeper, understanding, mixed with doubt, relief, mixed with uncertainty. Because sometimes getting an answer doesn't make things simpler. Sometimes it opens up an even bigger question. The room continued on, the food nearly ready, the atmosphere still warm and inviting. But beneath it all, something had changed, and it wasn't going to fade away. The camera lingers on Yuri's face for just a moment longer, capturing that shift. The realization, the question, the weight of what it might mean. The background sounds begin to soften, the warmth of the scene still present, but no longer the focus. And right there, in that quiet pause, the thought echoes clearly, almost like it's being asked without words. If she remembers all of this, then why doesn't she remember herself?